All right. Thank you so much for being here once again. We are here back with Gregory Joseph, Master Healer, who is telling us and sharing with us his fascinating story, his path, how he came to where he is right now, to becoming from a Master Carpenter, Carpenter to the Master Healer. Thank you so much for being here again, Gregory, and can't wait to hear what you have to say. Last time we were talking about Sai Baba and who he is, how you got to meet him and experience miracles, seeing it, being the witness and seeing that it's possible for your wife to find healing. And you wanted to tell a story about the lunch, the lunch
Yes.
with whose wife you saw being healed.
Yes, it was really something. And thanks for having me back again. This is great. I love to tell these stories, and new things pop up as I tell them, as I remember them. So many things happen, so that you find yourself in the presence of a master. Every second is a teaching. Everything that happens has something very significant to it. And so I think we left off, I watched that woman come out of the mandir, and she was walking, and it was just so heart-wrenching to see this happen. There were other parts of that, but what was more important was when we went to we all met afterwards, and so we have to know what happened, and he made a what's called a lingam. It looks like an egg. It came out of his mouth. And inside this, it was a clear, looked like a crystal, but there was a complete spine in the center of this lingam. And he gave the lingam to her and told her to put it in water and then drink the water, and her spine would heal. And so she kept the lingam, and then he told her she had 9 more years of service on this earth before it was her time to leave. And she actually did live another 9 years, and then she left. So it was it changes one's whole perspective on things like this. He also made a ring for her husband, and he just flipped his hand around, and in his hand was a ring. And he put it on him, and it didn't fit. And he said, "Oh, sorry." And he blew on it and then put it back on him, and it fit. These are hard things to hear. If you don't, I would have laughed and had another beer at another time, but having seen the miracles that I saw every single day, there was something that happened. And the interesting thing, like I said, a good avatar never tells you what to do. They just open the door. So it turns out that every place where my son went, Sai Baba would be there, and he would have an audience with him. Now, to understand this, people would go for 5, 10, 15, 20 years to try to get a personal meeting with him, and couldn't get it. Because there's literally millions of people that go to see this grand being. And so it took me a minute or two to figure it out, probably a day or two. And I thought, oh, just hang out with your son and then I'll get to see him. And I did. And it happened. And so I got to be in very close proximity with him. And as you mentioned before, the love, and this we touched on it last conversation. We were doing service. We were painting these concrete signs, and he came over to see what we were doing. And he was standing right next to me, and I looked up at him, and the love that just poured out of him, I could just feel the tears coming down my face. I couldn't say anything. I had this moment where I could have asked any question, and all I could manage was, "This is my son." And he said, "Yes, I know." And he walked away, and I peeked out around the sign, and I heard, like in the center of my body somewhere, I didn't say this out loud. I said, "Who are you really?" a healthy bit of skepticism, it's healthy because it keeps us on track. So I had to know. And he turned around, he just went like this. And I saw the whole universe forming and how it was made and all the planets and all the stars. And I couldn't begin to tell you much more than that. It was just so overwhelming to see every little aspect of how things had come together.
But I'd like to add to that that you have to be ready and you have to have the desire to see that, because it's not like he would show it to everyone. It's you were the one who ready to see it within yourself, because you can only see as much as you're ready and as much as you're able to process. So I think it's important that we mention that.
You brought up a really good point, because I looked around because I was gonna commiserate with other people so we could talk about it, and they're just looking. They didn't see anything. There was hundreds of people around right in that particular area, and nobody seemed to see that but me. Now maybe somebody else did, but I didn't notice. But it's, as I looked around, they're just all looking at him and smiling, and then he just walked away. It was just that quick, that simple, and so many things like that happened through the course of time there. Just, it seemed like one miracle after another just kept occurring. There was some other.
And these were, as I'm seeing it, they were answers to your questions that you're looking for, because you were hungry for questions and answers. You were hungry for answers, hungry. You were like, and all the miracles were occurring. So all of your answers would be finding its place, and you would find what you're looking for and feed your hunger. And you were ready because you were, then bringing it to others. It's not like you were keeping it all to yourself. But in my experience, what I have found, to every question I have, there's an answer when I'm ready, and if I'm open enough, because, and if I see that answer, and you seemed like you were clear, you were hungry for seeing the, answers to your questions. You had a goal, right? You had some sort of desire that was like driving you, right? You were very driven to find that healing, to find the answers, and you were not attached to any kind of material item. You were looking for whatever he'll give you, you will take it and learn from it. And that's what I'm seeing from what you're saying. It's like the miracles were the ones that you were ready for, and you were seeking for them, and they were miracles to you, and to you only, but that this is just beautiful. It's
Yeah. Well, we learned too, there were so many miracles that were happening simultaneously. I might have had having that, excuse me, experience, and each one of those people were having their own miraculous experience. We met with Sai Baba in this.
And you were not on any kind of mushrooms, just to clarify this for people who are watching. It's not like you were on the mushrooms or any sort of substance.
Not at all.
It's just a normal, healthy food eating, and there's nothing you're adding on. This is just like your experience.
Oh, I was still, in construction. I was still doing homes, things like that. And so I wasn't, I had something bigger than me, which was trying to heal my wife. So that, I think, was what kept me going in so much of that. We met him in what's called the Puna Chandra, and there was about five or six other people that were there, and we were going there to get more supplies to paint the signs. And he came in, and I couldn't converse with these people. We couldn't talk with each other. It was like five other men, and they were dressed very differently, each one of us from different parts of the world. And we couldn't talk to each other because we didn't know each other's languages. And he came and he started talking to us. Hang on just a second here. He came and started talking to us, and we're listening. And it took us about 4 or 5 minutes to realize we all heard him in our own language. I think you're muted some there.
Yeah, I'm muting myself because of the, in case
Oh,
of
the noise. Okay.
that's
Yeah.
wow. That's yeah.
Okay. So we took us a little while. We figured it out that, all of a sudden we were sitting there and just wonder how this could happen. And this was
And he was speaking at the same time to everyone. There was no
yes,
translation. There was no
no
wow.
translation. And he would ask us each a question, each one would answer in their own language.
And you could understand what the person answered at that
No,
moment,
I
or
couldn't understand them. I could only understand him.
oh wow.
When they spoke in their language, I didn't know what they were saying. Yeah. But when he spoke to them in their language, I knew what he was saying.
Wow.
It came to me in English.
I want to share my one interaction that it was very because the teacher who I was studying with, she was directly working with him. He initiated her. He was, I don't know what she was a student of his. She spent a long time in India. And for me, I never knew what Sai Baba is. And she initiated us in some sort of energy. And she said, go experience it on your own, and then I'll tell you about it. And for me, that was that laughing and love that came around me. And I just felt that. And I was like, this is just, there's no attachments. There's no, everything is joy. Everything is, just like joy and pure love and love too. And that's how I experienced his energy. And I didn't really studied much about him. I read a little bit that he was some sort of good saint, and for me that was good enough. It aligned in my heart. But anytime I would see his something that would say, let's say, Sai Baba incense, or any sort of touch of the reality with him, I felt that. I could feel that there is such an immense joy and lightness about everything. Like, don't be attached to things too seriously. And I used to be like so in my head and so attached to making everything so serious and, oh, this is difficult. This has to be struggle. But that's my experience with him, that it was just this joy, 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 and laughter and lightness.
Yeah, you're bringing up a good point because he would make those rings for people. He would make necklaces they call chapmalas, and they would just come out of his hand. And I thought, oh, I'm so on this path. I should get one of those. And when I saw him all these times, he never did that for me. And my ego was saying, oh, I must not be far enough down this path. And then one of the other Indian, he was like one of the people helped us register when we got there. He was just one of the people that worked on the astronaut. He explained to me, he said, oh, he only gives things like that to people who will eventually forget these miracles. And so they'll have a ring on their hand to always remind them that that there's no difference between our thoughts and what's real. See, that you can create anything you want with your thoughts, and this is a whole nother world. And to know that you can create your own reality, those were the reminders he would let them wear. Now, if they regressed and went back to doing things that were, we call it, we're missing the mark, like they weren't what was pure and honest and served the highest and best good for everyone, they would then lose that ring. It would go away. It would disappear. They wouldn't have it, or whatever it was. If they committed to an older, not so pure way, then they would lose the gifts that were given to them. It was really an eye opener. So you find out.
Like, I don't want to say matrix, but like a physical world absorbing them into, they're too much into the physical world, and
Yes.
they got absorbed into routine and forgotten about their spiritual self and who
Yeah.
they really.
Yeah, and I don't have enough experience with people that got things like that, if they made it through or they didn't, or how it worked out. Just that was the story that fellow told me.
And it
So
makes sense
yeah,
because I had people who would find a crystal, specific crystal. They would just find it would find their way into their life. They would work out whatever they need to work out, and then the crystal disappears. It's like they lose it around the house. They forget it somewhere, they drop it in the mountains accidentally, you know, and it's just, it seems like it also can be that it played the purpose and you learn how to hear yourself and how you don't need any more physical things and you just like let go and being there, you know, like realization, like with you, you know.
Well, you come to realize that things are just things. That, see, people came all the way to India, like I did, to find out I didn't have to go all the way to India to find my heart. But as it turned out, I did. But it's not necessary. When a lot of people would hear about Sai Baba and they would begin to follow his teachings and do what's happening, they would have visitations from him. They would have, I left a part of the story out. I remember I was in class with Alexander and I explained to him I had a dream that I was, you know, that Sai Baba was going like this. And yes, he said, well, I think he's telling you to come. And then I called my friend there and we went. So it's not something that just is in this everyday world, a physical world where we're talking and feeling and touching and all of those things. Now, all of those things are great. Our senses are five senses, but when we discovered when you're one with God, when you're one with yourself, however you want to say it, with the all and the everything, none of those things individually are noticeable. You're operating full spectrum. Everything is happening all at once. You might akin that to intuition or divine knowledge or divine knowing, because you're completely absorbed in the universe. You're tapped in. And what you need to do, what you need to know just comes to you. Many of the teachings that we had, when he would be up there talking, and many other great people that were with him were talking, I didn't understand the language. But being in the presence and wanting to learn, I learned what I needed to learn. It was that simple. And Sai Baba was, I would say, I kind of tease with this. I say he was smart enough to know that if my brain got involved, I'd muck it all up. So I got the information, I would just more or less absorb it. And that's what helped me to become a better healer and a better healer each time, because I didn't get lost in analyzing things with my brain. So your heart knows everything. Your brain, almost nothing. It's like your heart has no questions. Your brain has no answers. Okay. Your brain only knows what your heart gives it to do or what it experiences in life. It doesn't have the option of the all and the everything. It's only when your entire body works together that then you can tap into this other information, this other knowledge of the universe, if you will.
Yeah, I love that. I wrote it down for me, for myself, because I love that phrase. And can you repeat it again?
Sure, the
Your
heart has no questions and the brain has no answers.
the heart has no questions and the brain has no answers.
Yes. It's a good thing to remember. There's all these jokes I could tell someone maybe another time, but it's where the brain and the heart and all the body parts were arguing who's the most important, you know. And basically the bottom line was that we deferred to our brain and stopped listening to our hearts. So you want your heart to make the choice and then allow your brain to carry it out, not the other way around. Okay, and this is why you know, so many things we touched on a little a while ago, but women's suffrage and how women were really the leaders because they were more in tune with that intuition. They had more time looking within as their bodies changed when they grew up. They, oh my gosh, I'm changing, and you're looking inward, and that's where the intuition is. You're finding out the messages from your own body. Men go through life, we don't go see that sort of thing. We're just the same. We grow up, we don't change that much, you know, physically.
Well, it used to be that. Yeah, I want to say that this used to be that, because it seems
Exactly.
like I'm
Yeah.
seeing a lot of men right now awakening and opening up to new realities that I'm looking at them with such respect and like
Yeah.
you know, I would love you, because this exercise is so powerful and I've been sharing it with a lot of people, and you know, no, I can't say a lot, but people who I shared with, it was very valuable too. Can you teach? Can you guide, like, can maybe guide me through that again, and then the people who are watching, the viewers, can do it with us too. And then
Sure.
one, you do the focus with your one eye, and then another eye, and then both eyes.
That's a simple one. And there is a centering exercise that my teacher, Alexander, had taught me. And I modified it just a little, but that's another way to go deeply within. One of the reasons it worked so well for me is because it uses your mind to get in there. And then you lose your mind. You say, oh, I lost my mind. I say, great. Okay. Because
Mindless.
when you
Mind.
lose that thinking process as the lead and you go into the holistic process of knowing, then
Yeah.
no mistakes. So this
Oh.
one's a good one to try. This is a good way to go within. Now, there's a saying that the eyes are the windows to the soul. And yeah, there's some definitely truth to that. And it has a lot more to do with feelings and romance and things of this nature. And yes, it can get you a bit closer to the soul. But let's take that a step further. So what you really want to do, you have 7 major chakras in the body. The one that I'm going to talk about is the third eye. It's your pineal gland. And this is your perception of what we would like to see as truth. A lot of these perceptions are altered with our thoughts, you see. So we want to have the true perception and not add any thoughts to it. Here's a good way to do it. So you would see yourself. Now, most people lead with one eye. So your left eye is attached with your right brain, which is all about etheric
No,
things.
no, 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 no. I wouldn't go there. I would just go and exercise and then explain
Yeah,
them.
I will.
Yeah.
Okay, well, okay, we'll
Because
do
people might start to control that. You know, if they start to hear it, they start to control it.
it. That's what you think. Okay, we'll do it your way. And
I'm
that's
ready.
beautiful.
I'm like, so I love this exercise so much. I'm like, yes, please, let's do it.
Sure. Well, it's beautiful that, see, there's not just one way to do things. So we're going to do it this way, how you like. Okay.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
here's a good thing to do. So you lead with your right eye, your left eye. So what I would tell you right now is look out of your right eye. Don't close your left eye.
Mm.
Just look at anything. Choose something. Yeah, maybe if you're looking in your computer and you see yourself, just look at yourself. If somebody's around, just look at them. It doesn't matter. But just look out of your right eye, but focus all of your attention on your body, particularly your heart. Just notice what's happening.
It's just peace. It's like
Uh-huh.
being present, peace, sturdiness, confidence, grounding, I'd say grounding.
Okay. Now go to your left eye. Okay. Which then would connects to the right. Your right eye that connects to the left side of your brain. What did I do? What did I start with? I went away for a minute.
Right. So now I go with the left one.
Okay. So now go with your left eye and just look out of your left eye and pay attention to your body.
Now I'm feeling like the motherhood part, like, oh, I have to get things done. I have to, what I need to get done for my kids, for my school, making sure the laundry, like the routine.
Yes. Now I want you to look out of both eyes. And when you're with somebody, you look into their third eye, or you can do this in the mirror. You look into your own third eye. So even if you're not looking in a mirror right now, just imagine that you're looking at yourself at your own third eye and look out of both eyes. So you're forming like this triangle. You're looking out of your eyes, okay? Looking at the third eye in front of you and then only paying attention to your heart.
So now it's like unity, peace, and collaboration.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that interesting? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now
Yeah.
imagine if you're confronting any circumstance, particularly in relationship and business, anything, any function at all, and you're looking at the person's third eye, you can tell more about yourself in that moment, enabling you, empowering you actually to make good choice with your heart. your heart will tell you. So you might be in front of somebody and your heart's telling you, you know, move away from this person, or it's okay to be here, or here's the real message that this person is delivering. Maybe the words aren't so good, but the message is good. And you will know that by how your body receives that information. So if you're feeling open, expanded, you know, saying, yeah, I like this, this is fine, then there's probably good purpose and reason for you to be there.
And it's that's what you told me, that the right eye is connected to the heart, and you're seeing through your heart if you're focusing through your right eye, and then left eye is connected to the brain. So if you're focusing, looking through your left eye, then it's more analyzing.
Actually, you're pretty close. It's the left eye goes to the right brain, the right eye goes to the left brain. Both eyes go to the heart.
Both eyes. So
Yeah.
when I'm together, both eyes, they go to
Yes.
the
Yes. And
heart.
you're looking into the third eye of somebody in front of you, or in your mirror, in a mirror, you look into the third eye, and then you focus on your heart. It could be so for some people, and it's not always true for everyone, but when you're daydreaming, for example, and you realize you're not really looking at anything. Now, I'll bet everybody's done this. You've been driving in your car and you arrive at your destination, but you are so deep in thought or so deep in some other event in your life that you didn't even see where you were driving. You didn't remember what road you took. Isn't it interesting that you didn't have to be cognizant of what your eyes were delivering to your entire mind to get there safely? There was actually a story on the ashram of a woman who was quite blind, born blind, but she would watch movies, she would drive cars, she did everything normal because she could see with the entire essence of her whole body.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can sense that sometimes. Like I would know the sense of direction where I'm going.
Yes.
And I don't know how. I'm joking around. I'm saying I have an inner GPS, but I just allow my body like turn towards certain way or turn the car towards certain way, and that would be the right direction to go to.
Yes.
I don't do it consciously, but that's yeah, I believe that. I believe that.
Yeah, I would suggest that a lot of these, quote, unconscious directives are what keeps us healthy, keep us wise, keep us progressive, keep our lives in order. It's our brain that gets us into trouble. Okay, because
Absolutely.
we can justify anything with logic.
Mhm.
It's a very funny thing, but if you're just listening inside, yes, I'm going to do this. No, I'm not going to. Yes, this is a good thing. No, it's very simple. It's like when I think my son, I think remember Ram Dass came to. He's another. He was quite a famous, not like Sai Baba, but he was a very learned, very wise man. And I remember he came to Syracuse University when I was in college, and he was on stage. And I asked him, I said, he was talking about ascension. And I said, my son asked me, he was only like 5 at the time. I was talking about ascension. And I said, my son said, so what's the point? So I asked Ram Dass, I said, what's the point of ascension? And I told him, my son asked me that. And his answer was, your son is a very wise young man. And that was the answer. And I was disappointed, and I thought I was going to get this big answer of what was going to happen. What he was doing was bringing back the energy to me so that I would answer my own question. Years later, when I was with Alexander at one point, he goes, do you realize you can't really ask a question unless you know the answer? He said, within your question is already the answer, or you couldn't formulate the question.
Wow.
So he said, why bother going through all of that process when you could just tap in and know? You eliminate a whole process of trying to guess whether your questions were.
It's the ego and fear and brain stops you, right? That they just chatter in the head. Da, 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 da.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what meditation was all about. That's what a lot of the adepts used to go into caves because it was so quiet and dark, and it stopped all of the frequencies of everybody's thought forms. So we have everybody's thoughts going through the air all the time. We have just like, radios and TVs, we've got all of those coming through the airwaves at the same time. I learned something a while ago. Remember, you might not remember, but I sure do. Rabbit ear antennas on the television, for the reception. They had these two big, antennas. And I remember my father had one of the first TVs around, and so we would have to though shoot fingers. There was 5 of us children in my family, who's going to hold the antenna so we get the best reception, so the rest of us could watch TV. and because it turned out every time we touched the antenna, we get a good picture. Why was that true? You see, I really thought about that years later, because it was one of those moments in time that I remembered. And the truth is, you see, we're the finest antenna that could ever be produced. And so when we touched that antenna, went through our body, we increased the frequencies into the television, and the television worked beautifully. You see, so what makes you think, though, that you're not that antenna when you're not touching something? You're that antenna all the time.
Because we were taught in school that without something, you're nothing. You have to have something. You need this and this and this, and you don't have it inside. It's like untaught in school. Yeah. Can you speak more about the two things I want to hear about? Is one, the brain halves, like the left and right hemisphere, and then the caves part. This is very interesting. So you went to caves or
I did
whatever,
not. No,
but not about caves. Can you talk a little bit more about that too? Like, what do you mean about that?
Okay,
So,
well, my understanding of the caves first, that was something I don't have firsthand, but my understanding was that they would go into the caves because the frequencies of all the thought forms usually didn't penetrate through the rocks and the depths of the earth. So they would go to these very extremely quiet places. There was even spoken that if you would stay in one of these caves for 9 days, and it's pitch black, I don't know if you ever experienced pitch black. The average person lasts something like 13 seconds in pitch black. They just get frightened and they lose it, But if you can stay 9 days in this pitch black with it's sensory deprivation. So you're not relying on touch and seeing things and hearing things and smelling things, because you're just immersed in this cave. There's nothing there for you to latch on to. It's complete darkness, that you would come out enlightened. That was the whole idea, but very, very few people turned out could do it. I thought one day I'd like to try, but I haven't done that.
question is where they go to the bathroom.
I don't know. I didn't go in there. I'm sure they had some provision, something to do, but
wow.
I think they only drank water, if I remember right, too. They didn't eat that whole time. You can go quite a while without food, but you have to have water. So they did just have water, and I imagine they had something figured out for that, because I imagine it would come up. But the idea was that you completely shut down all of your senses and allow yourself just to know, to completely know.
That's amazing. We just went actually to the cave when I went to Shasta. That was one of my first experiences. We went to a few caves. And this is great to hear, because it gives me some insights.
And just, I mean, I've been in some, what do you call it, the caves with the stalagmites and things, where you can go in and see the beauty underneath the earth. And it was quite extraordinary. And they turned off the lights for a few seconds, and people got really upset, like really quickly. It was really something. So I think that there's a lot of truth in that 13 seconds. They only turned it off for a few seconds. And even people squealed and screamed a little bit, because you can put your hand right here. You can't see it with no light. You can't see your own hand in front of your face like that when it's pitch black. And that opens an entire different world. And of course, we're foolish enough in this world to watch horror pictures and entertain these awful thoughts. And so when there's pitch black, where does fear come from? It's the unknown. You see, and so if it's pitch black, it's unknown. You no longer know what's around you. You no longer think you know what's around you. And then your brain will make up things. And here's the thing, your brain doesn't know the difference between what you make up and what's real. That's a kicker, boy. It's really something. If you imagination, see, trumps everything. Your brain doesn't know the difference if you've actually experienced it or you made it up. That's just science.
That's really, yeah, because my imagination, I stopped watching any kind of movies that would get my imagination going anywhere close to that. Like literally, I been in a like a cinema where I would sit with my friends, and within the first 2 minutes of beginning, I left. Like I left, I was like, I need to drag my body out of here. And this was years ago. This was like, I don't know, 12 years ago, because I would dream this horror inside. Like I did not need to go to the theater. I would dream a whole movie out, and I could wake up in the morning and write it down, and I would scream to my husband in my dream. I'd scream, I'd be like, wake me up, because I was in such a horror reality.
Mhm.
And later I understood that this is the vibrational, like a different dimensions. I'm getting into different vibrational fields. I understood that there is, you can elevate that. And I was eating badly, I was drinking heavily, we were partying all the time, and being like having this super sensory skills and imagination that's wild. I had experienced the horrible things that were in my dreams.
You brought up a lot of things. So I tease my the bottom line. I like to go to the bottom line, then I'll fill it in. But I tell my grandchildren, I always tease them. I said, well, you know what? Asher is one of her names. And he'd say, what? And I'd say, well, I love myself. And they would just giggle and laugh, And I said, well, how about you? Do you love yourself? And now they all say it without feeling self-conscious about it, but it still brings them a lot of joy. Now, the reason I'm bringing that up is, like you said, and I went through this too, as you heard earlier, drinking and smoking and carrying on and doing things that actually hurt this temple that we live in. And why would we do that? We're trained not to love ourselves so much. And so we make sure that, and this is just me speaking now, it's like we just kind of make sure that we don't allow our greatness to shine, because, oh boy, that's an ego trip. It's like we're trained not to do that. When if we would just allow, for example, our children, when they're growing up and when they have all these things that seem not in alignment with what society says is okay, if they were just allowed to go out there, to make the mistakes they're going to make, to find out about life, to explore without us trying to guide them and keep slapping them around into this straight line that we want them to go in, they would be as powerful, I imagine, as these beings like Sai Baba. See, we have stopped the flow of energy. We have cut it off, and then we've done it. It's a very, how would I say it? It's Satan's work is the best way to say it. It's just of the mind. It's not, and what I'm calling, let me reframe that. It's of the brain. It's the mind in its totality doesn't do that. The mind actually preserves us.
And I have experienced, from what I understood about that part, is that there is a kind of like, without night you can't see the joy of the day, and without day you can't see the joy of the night, and they all go together parallel, and it's the balance. It's all about balance and being able to maneuver that, and be a master of that, really master of energy, of balance, and having both female and male, that black and white within you, that's yin yang, kind of like a white wing, and they're both, I don't want to be just all about like, oh, I'm all light and angel. No, it's not true, because I have the Kali part to me. I have this monstrous creature that comes out once a month.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to meet, and I kind of want to, but it's the love and peace and gentleness that surround us, and which brings me to that question about the brain, the right and half hemisphere, right and left hemispheres. What do you know? Can you speak more about that?
Just a little bit. I mean, it would all that you would need to know, at least a lot, all I thought I would need to know is your right eye is associated more with your left brain. So if you're leading with your right eye, um, you're more apt to be logical and of the mind. That's the logical part of your brain. Then your left eye connects to your right brain, which is this etheric part, which is the all and the everything. So if we're leading with our left eye, we're more, how would I say it, touchy-feely or experiencing in the moment. If we're looking with our right eye, that's our left brain, we're more likely than not experiencing our day with intercessions from the past and thoughts that would lend a perception rather than a simple authenticity of what's in front of us. And if you ever want to check that out, I mean, watch a movie you've watched before, maybe many years ago, and maybe you've come into more balance. Maybe you're looking more from your left or your right eye than you were before. And you will see things in that movie you never saw before. You'll see it from a whole different perspective. This is why police stopped asking in an accident for people's, eyewitness to the occasion, because they'd get a different story from everybody. So if I had a belief, for example, that, well, women can't drive, okay, okay, then here at an intersection, there would be a woman sitting in the perpendicular to me in her car, and she's just waiting for the light to change, and a fellow comes around and turns and hits her. Now, because I have a belief that woman can't drive, I say, well, see that the guy who's making a left turn, the dumb woman didn't get out of the way. See, that's a perception. Okay, it's not what happened. All right. So I have to be careful that perceptions don't get in the way of whatever the truth is that I'm looking at. And that comes from the left brain. So the right brain is just there, just taking it all in, saying, okay, this is it. Now, think about this in terms of healing. It's like when I work with people who are having difficult times with their partners or at work or things of this nature, it's usually something they're upset with about themselves. So here's an example. If you're working in a office building or something, and the boss comes in and every morning just rips you apart. You're so dumb. I told you to get this ready, and they just get on top of you all right in the morning. And then you think, when they walk away, you think, oh, that rotten so-and-so. So, what has happened is by you going into the energy that they're in, you creating it to happen the next day. And that's all left brain activity. Okay. That's ego, revenge, pride, power, all of these things are coming into play. But if you want to change that circumstance, you start looking at that person's third eye and you check into yourself, say, where am I? Say, well, they're angry and upset every time they walk in. Well, I'm not angry and upset. So what I might just do is, instead of thinking poor thoughts back to that person, to say, wow, you're really angry, just state the obvious. Okay. And you might even start out by bringing maybe their favorite coffee and put it on your desk, or their favorite donut. And they may not take it the first 3 or 4 times, but after a while they may. But you see, now you're playing a different game than what they're doing by paying attention to your own heart. Your emotions are yours. Mine are mine. The two don't mix. You could be absolutely horribly mad and angry at me, and I could be, which has happened in my life, I could be still sitting there laughing, which doesn't go over very well, I'll tell you that. Don't do that. But but what's true for me is your anger is yours, mine's mine. If I'm angry, I would like you to help me maybe get out of that anger. So the next time that person comes in, say, boy, you're really angry. Is there something I could do to help you with that? Sit down and talk to me for a second, because I know you're not angry at me. I just came into work. I haven't even done anything yet. I've just sat down at my desk. Let's see what we're going to do. So what in the world could you possibly be angry at already? At me, see? So I know it's not about me. But hey, you're angry. Why don't you sit down for a second? Let me help you. This is called compassion. This is called oneness. This is called tapping in with yourself. Maybe you can venture into saying something kind of funny and change the whole atmosphere. But it's up to you. Let me clarify this more too. See, people think, well, let me ask you, can you hurt people with your words?
I would say yes.
And they can hurt you with their words?
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. Why? Because you choose. Sometimes they can and sometimes they can't, right? So here's the whole thing. Can people hurt you with their words? No, it's rubbish. You can choose to be hurt with your words. Okay. So you would choose not to have a healing within yourself, or you could choose to have a healing and say, oh, I see. Somebody says, Greg, you're the most ridiculous person. You couldn't heal a fly with a broken wing. I said, and you're a charlatan and all these kind of things, and you take people's money for tricking them. And that actually happened to me in upstate New York. They had a 4-page article in the newspaper, and it said basically just that. And, a charlatan, a fake, all this. I mean, went on and on. And I remember when the reporter came to interview me, she asked me 2 questions. 1, how to spell my name. Okay. And 2, I had a picture of Sai Baba on the wall in my office where I was doing healings, and she asked me who that was. And so she, I worshiped the Antichrist. She actually said that. She even called me the Antichrist in the paper. Now, upstate New York in Syracuse, it's a small town. Reputation is a word. Everybody kind of knows everybody. And I thought, boy, I'm ruined. Then I thought, no, I'm not ruined. It's just her opinion. 2 years later, I got written up in the same newspaper, a different, reporter. And she says, walks on water like Jesus, people are getting out of, supposedly incurable situations in their lives. And like Jesus was the final thing. And I thought, oh, I was more frightened of that end because of what I got to live up now. And here's the funny part. More people came to see me after the first one than after the second one. And this is a statement about the mindset of the people, of where we have, I would say, fallen to. Because what I'm aware of is everybody can heal themselves, but they've got to have the tools to be able to do it. That's what I do. I really don't heal anybody. I open the door, just like the avatars opened the door for me. See, you have to walk through the door yourself. And here's the really good thing. You can. We all have the same power. We're all made in the same thing that people say, we're made in the image of God. Yes, I really get that. It's like if you are, then you're part of God. Yes. Well, if you're part of God, then you're one with God. Yes. Then you're God. You're with God. That doesn't mean, you can move the moon and the stars and it's like what it does mean, though, is you can do all that any great person could do. They've learned.
Yeah, and I love that about you specifically, that you really like balance that out, where when I came to visit you, there was this simple man living his life, eating his food, talking like super humble, plain human being. And then when I speak to you, just like this in the conversation, the things that come out, I'm seeing who you are. You're the master. You are the master healer. You're speaking great depth. And, I'm not afraid to say that I know you've lived hundreds and thousands of lives, because the wisdom that comes from you is not from one lifetime experience. It's you've been there. You've been with other masters in other lifetime and learned with them. And this is why you're able to be in touch with them in this lifetime. It's not like you get lucky. It's not a luck. It's you have to be able to hold that energy field, because the energy field is so large. And I'd like to bring up an example. I had this deep desire to meet with this famous Russian singer. He was coming to New York, and I dressed all up. I bought a ticket on the first row, just like you said, and I came in, And I had this vision where I'm close next to him, but I didn't have anything else. Like, I didn't know what's going to happen afterwards. I just had this vision that I have this energy field that can meet his. And at some point I'm sitting and our voices, we are looking at each other into the eye, and our voices unite and we start to sing together. And my brain goes, gosh, this is really happening. And this is really famous singer, Valery Mеладзе. He's like very, very big, you know? And we are singing together and he's looking at me right into the eyes and our voices unite. And I couldn't stand his energy because I was like, I don't know what to do after this, because this is as far as I could get, as big as I can get, you know? So if he had a conversation with me, I would just get lost because my brain started to say, who am I? You know, and all these things would start to pop up. And within the second, I dropped my voice and I was like, what's happening? And he laughed at me. He, you know, the person sees what's happening. He feels that he knows. And he just laughed and continued like pulling his note down. And that was it. And I sat down there in a chair for the rest of the concert, scared, like I haven't thought this through. I don't know what to do. So in order to be with these people, when we're talking about energy field, you have to be able to have your field where it's so humble, so plain. You don't attach yourself. Yes, it's a miracle and it's great. and here it is. And you don't make stuff up about yourself that you are the greatest guru of the world. Yet here you are, you heal with your touch, you heal with your word. And this is why I'm so excited about all these videos, that they are, this wisdom is coming from lifetimes of experience, from a man who is able to just humbly walk, humbly talk, humbly eat, and it's beautiful. Like I'm looking for that. I think it's the ability to, I don't know what to do, manage your ego or be aware of your ego. You can probably tell me better about it, but it's that's what I think many people know about you. I'm sure they feel it. Who knows? People know that, you know.
So it's a vibration, it's a frequency, and I did try to do past life regressions and things, and then one time I met this little indigo child. You should look into indigo children. If you don't know, they're very special children. They come in with knowledge beyond. And she was giving a seminar, and we could talk about that another time. But the bottom line, when I was trying to find out what was going on, she said, Joseph. And I said, well, how did you know my name? And she said, oh, I've known you from lifetimes and lifetimes. And I said, really? And she said, yes, we were whales in the ditch. I said, what do you mean? This is her. They called her grandmother Chandra. And she was like 16 because she knows everything. So she earned the title grandma. And her name's Grandma Chandra. She lives in Tempe, Arizona. Anybody can look her up. She's probably in her 30s now, I suppose. And I said, well, what were we doing in this ditch, And she said, well, there's transmissions that come from space and other civilizations and intelligence. Basically, I'm sugarcoating that. Basically, these are informations coming from the all and the everything. And it was our job as whales to transform that energy, transmute it into information that human beings could pick up. And this is where inventors, and this is where a great deal of the knowledge that we have today comes from. Things like this, according to her. So I bought some whale sounds and whale music. Didn't do anything for me. I just didn't seem to connect to it. But I do have, I revere whales. I've always thought they were such majestic creatures, but that's it. Now, see, my logical brain isn't making a connection that I would seek, to say, oh yeah, if you play whale music, I'll go back into that state. But here's the truth. The state that I'm in is what's happening. This is what makes me able to do what I am doing. I can simply know certain things through those vibrations. And I've had many occasions where, for example, one where I was doing a healing with Grandmother Chandra. I was supposed to do one on her. And she was waiting. I was waiting for her to come into the room. And all these rings of energy were going through my body. It's just, you took a ring and just went down my body, and there were lots of them, and I could feel it. And her mother saw by the look on my face, she said, you feel it, don't you? And I said, yes, what's happening? And she said, well, she's checking you out, to see if you're the person that should be doing the healing with her. And I'm thinking I should be kissing her feet, not going to do the healing on her, let her do a healing on me. Through the course of that healing, I saw all of these different shapes coming from the universe going in through the top of her head. I'm very visual. And I saw other shapes leaving. And what astounded me, if you had a shape like this phone or this pen, when they came in, they all fit completely around the whole circumference of everything, even though they were different shapes. And that just so threw me. I couldn't figure out how that could happen, which is good. You see, when you shut your brain off, so my brain couldn't figure out, I had to simply know. So I asked her, I said, what was this? She said, oh, this is information again from the universe, like we used to do as whales in the ditch, and the old information is going out, the new information is coming in, and through her vibration, she's giving that to the world.
This is beautiful, and this video is a little bit too long, but I think we're good. I might like just like break it in two different pieces because I'd like to add something here. So what I would call it, and many people would call it, they're called downloads, and it's my perspective on how I see it, which is, for me, my perception is that we are like computers, and the downloads are automatically happening, and you can be aware of them or not aware of them. And I knew about birds, like parakeets and parrots. When they are singing, they are transmitting, like listening to the parakeets live, they're transmitting information that is not distorted by any time and space, because they were passed it on from 15,000 years ago, from one word to like from mommy to child. And I used to have 7 parakeets in my house just to download that, all the vibration information. And now with my ears would be buzzing with like this pitch, and a lot of people right now, my age and younger, can relate to it. And about the whales, I did not know that, because I had a desire to listen to the whales, but I couldn't find the sound that associated. It was like resigning. I was like, this is not pure. It's either was fake, like a manly artificially created, or it was a short sound that was, like copied and pasted over and over and over. So it wasn't full sound, because you need to hear a whole sound that's recorded specifically under the water or above for a certain amount of time length, because you have to hear the whole message. It's like hearing one word makes no sense, so now I'm gonna be asking my angels to send me the tape, because this is fascinating that you can know what you're talking about. It's probably, I don't think it's that easy to acquire, because it's probably a lot of sounds that are distorted, in the recording studio, or the source is important, but it's the downloads.
Yeah, I think what you were talking about, if you can naturally get it, go swim in the ocean, listen to the whale, something. I don't know, but I mean, it's now here's a statement I just said, I don't know. Well, I should say I don't know yet. Okay, so now I would focus my attention there and allow this internal knowledge, this intuition, to give me the answer. This is the best way to get answers. Ask the question, then let it go. And your answer will come to you either in sound, in words, in knowing, in vibration. Somehow you will get it. You can't not get it. That's the rule. But you can drown it out with your chatter, okay, in the mind. So the idea is to keep the mind clear, keep it empty, keep it. People say, well, you've lost your mind. I say, great. How can I? It's like, keep it quiet. Let your body speak. Give your heart a chance to speak, and learn the language of your heart. Like you mentioned several times, well, I just knew that's what happened. That's how you get things. Other people hear voices and they call them their guides or the angels, whatever you'd like to do, but it's however you communicate. In closing, I would like to say one of my people, after my teacher, I was with him for 27 years. I stayed with him, and he taught me many, many things. And one of the things that he taught me is you have to find your own connection. He said, that's how it really works, because everybody's got it. You've just got to find it. So I remember after he had passed several years ago, people would call me up, and because they knew we were close, and they would say, "I've got a message for you. I've got a message for me." I said, "What do you mean?" So Alexander wants me to tell you something. And I said, "Well, keep it. I don't want that message." And they said, "What do you mean?" I said, "What was his whole message to us was, you have your own direct connection. I have my own direct connection. I don't need that message from you." Do you see? The message coming through them would have part of their wants and desires in it, which may have nothing to do with me. Make sense to you?
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's being attuned to your own radio, your own direct source, and being aware of that. And when you
Yes.
try to hear it through someone else, it's like you're distrusting yourself more and more. Yeah, you're saying, no, I'm not valuable, I'm not valid, I'm broken or something. We're like, no, I function well, I'm fine, and I can receive the information that,
Yeah,
yeah.
next we talk about this kind of language, like you just said. Yes, I'm this, I'm that. We're called things like, well, you're bad, you're good. These are all perceptions. There's nothing to do with the realities usually. Okay, those are all perceptions. What's good, what's right, what's wrong, what's bad. And so we're trained, we wake up, oh, that's bad. You're wrong. You missed it, you've sinned. I mean, it just goes on and on. And these are the chatters that stop us the most from being fully who we can be. And incidentally, it's a journey. I don't know that it's going to end. There's not an ending. This is a journey. It's not looking for a destination. As long as I'm here in this body, I've got things to handle.
Oh, that's beautiful. Like taking one life at a time.
Yeah. Yes. Now I'm in touch with a gal I spend a great deal of time with. We call her the Cosmic Mother. And through a long story, I'll make it short because I do actually have to leave in a little bit here. But we had done some healing work together. Then she went and had a picture taken with a Polaroid. They took 7 pictures of her. Was a completely different person in each picture. All of her 7 embodiments over the last 7 lifetimes came together as one, and that's who she is today.
You mean like a completely different person?
Completely. It doesn't even look like her at all. You could see some similarities, I should say. It looks like her a little bit, but some of them, no, not even close. Not even, you would never guess it was the same
She was
person.
able to show that phantom, that body.
Yeah,
She was able
showed up, actually, yeah, showed up in the picture. Now, so many things have happened when we first, so we've been practicing seeing these sorts of things for a long time now, raising frequencies. And we start to see things that we didn't normally see before. And how we discovered it, believe it or not, we would take pictures and we would see, the camera would pick them up because the camera doesn't have the filters our brain does. Isn't that wild? And so then we realized, well, because we thought at first it was the cameras, there's something about the camera. So we changed the cameras, we changed the phones, we changed everything to see what would happen. And we still got the same results. And so we thought, okay, well, if our cameras can do this, and so could we. And we did. Then we could start seeing our light bodies. We could start seeing things that are occurring. I'll send you a picture of one of those too. It's quite extraordinary.
Oh, please. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna have lead to the wrapping up the session, and I'll most likely divide this live in 2 different parts. Gregory, I'm so joyful. Every time I speak to you, I feel like healing right away. So I think these videos are healing, and I hope they are for people, and they take the best out of what you're giving generously and genuinely and authentically. And thank you so much for your time and your wisdom and your experience. And I'll see you soon. I think our next live is Thursday, right?
Yes.
I'll see you in 2 days.
Very good. I'm so honored. Thank you so much. This is my joy to bring this to people. This is what lights me up. used to be building homes. Now it's building lives.
It used to be building buildings and homes, but now it's like
Yeah.
homes
Yeah.
within the person. Home person.
All righty. Lots of love. Bless everybody's heart here.
Oh,
Thank you so
please,
much
please.
for this time.
Mhm.
All right.